Do you think that a company's scope is only business? Yes? No? What is your answer? In this movie, we will try to answer the question. However, I need you first to give your reflections and your ideas. Will you help me? Otherwise, we will only stick to the theory, and that is no way to change business in practice. For real change, we need full interaction between you and me and the content of our course. Firstly, we will ask how to promote ethical awareness in business via various drivers, and these are market, social, governmental, environmental, and institutional drivers. So let's go. One of the channels to impact on the company to act ethically is market infrastructure. The great financial crisis led not only to great financial losses in the banking sector, but also to collapse of trust in business and politicians, which in turn affected all the market infrastructure and eventually other companies too. On the other hand, sound market infrastructure mobilizes companies to act trustfully. People working in high companies report less stress, higher productivity and engagement, and less burnout. Compared with people in low trust companies, people in high trust companies report 74% less stress, 130% more energy at work, 50% higher productivity, 13% fewer sick days, 76% more engagement, 29% more satisfaction with their lives, and 40% less burnout. But what is such a sound market infrastructure? We can think about the relationship between the real and financial sector. There's much doubt if the growth of unstable financial sector financialization doesn't expose as many companies from real sector to unnecessary risk and doesn't put them under pressure to acquire excessively high returns from capital. So excessive that it has to lead to a reduction of wages, especially in lower qualified jobs. There is some research showing that even if wages for highly skilled workers grow, that is nothing compared to the growth of profit. Secondly, we can think about the previously mentioned consequences of financialization, the growing share of capital in GDP and the falling of labor, even if the second one is inherent to a human being, creating a part of them. We cannot separate human labor from human, and capital, yes, is such a tendency fair. When we look on the labor productivity index, we can see that its growth is much higher than that of real wage index, which means that wages don't grow as much as they should. This issue has not only its economic aspect, which we can see from observing the data below, but legal, political and social ones as well. So, for instance, unpaid debts are pursued by banks to the last penny, while at the same time there are 40 million workers in the world who we can call modern slaves, people who are forced to work, who are not paid their wages, wage theft, or who are paid 40% of the minimum required to survive, or who are sexually abused. In other words, people who are robbed of their working rights. As humans, we treat capital much better than labor, which is inseparable from human beings. This is in fact a paradox. The economic term labor is not like capital, which can be separated from human. The economic political system in which we are living is also called capitalism, rules of the capital, in opposition to socialism, rules of the society. Socialism, the authoritarian systems based on the Marxist and Leninist ideas was discredited in the 20th century. However, there are some studies which prove that the rules of capital may lead to erosion of democracy as well. The knowledge of the deficits of the capitalism lead to the increase of the rates. Some of them you can find in New Economic Thinking portal on YouTube. About alternative systems permitting both democracy and human rights. There is, for instance, a discussion about post-capitalistic systems. The next aspect is inequality, which may lead to inefficiency in the market and which has drastic social and ecological consequences. The existence of multinational concerns may undercover risks. For instance, one of such inequalities can be viewed in modern supply chains. The distribution of value between various segments of the market leads to a tiny share of value left to lower segments of such chain. This has led, for instance, to the phenomenon called forced labor or modern slavery. The last suppliers in the supply chain are almost forced to work below production costs, and so they are almost forced to save money on the labor cost, which favors labor cost. This is the case, for instance, with chocolate production or tea production. For one chocolate bar of $1 value, there are only a couple of cents of value left for the production process in the country of origin. According to Mitchell's paper 2019, there's a trust crisis in companies. Edelman Trust Barometer 2020, which mentions income inequality now affects trust more than economic growth. Starting with this statement, arguments are provided in the paper and other sources that you will find answer to these questions. Why do we speak of trust crisis? How does economic growth affect trust? What is the relation between economic growth and trust? What does it mean in practice? Where are the inequalities in business between profit growth and salary growth, labor and capital, between different salaries? According to the article by Paul Zak published in Harvard Business Review, The Neuroscience of Trust, people in high trust companies report less stress, higher productivity and engagement, and less burnout. Why do you think this is so? What is a trust for you? Why is trust important? What kind of argument and evidence does the article provide? What makes the market unstable? Discuss this topic. Present your view and support it with relevant sources.